Hello and welcome to Flower Juice. My name is John McDonald and today we're going to show you how to create another shower bouquet. So this is a Cascade style wedding bouquet, and again we're going to use one of these bridal holders. So the last time we showed you a really exciting bouquet and it just showed you what we can do. This one we want to keep it quite straightforward and do something that's quite traditional, but really just showing you the basics of how you would approach doing a bouquet like this. So less complicated, but really showing you how to put it together and just using basic ingredients. So we're going to go for a standard shower and quite symmetrical and just keep it quite straightforward. So the ingredients I'm going to use are these beautiful calla lilies. We've got some lovely Miss Piggy roses, some wonderful astilbe, blue, we've got some nice French ruskus, eucalyptus, and a little bit of Veronica as well. And just as a highlight, I've got a little touch of the darker Hypericum berries. And to finish at the back, I've also got some little ivy leaves. So here we go. So what we've done is we've taken our bridal holder and we've soaked this in water. Now you can use water that contains a flower food. So that's one thing that you could do just to help. But really just put it into the water and let it sink down on its own. Don't push it under the water. So this soaks very quickly and it's very straightforward. What we've got here is we've got wet foam in a cage on a handle. Now one thing you might want to do is you might want to use a little bit of glue just to glue that on, and that gives you a little bit of security that that is completely solid. This is basically detachable for different reasons. You could do something different. You could use this into a different container or a different handle. So in some ways this is really handy, but if you're going to make a big heavy bouquet, I would glue this here. And our stand here is really just to hold our bouquet, and what we're wanting to do is we want to work with the holder at a nice constant place. So we're looking at it, and with this cage work, as long as I've got one of the cages at the top, that gives us a place where we can attach some of our flowers if we're going to wire them. So the main flowers that we were going to use here are, as I said, the Miss Piggy roses and the callas. So it doesn't really matter which ones we want to start with. So we might want to say, right, we're going to have a rose as our longest flower. That's great, that's fine, that's not a problem. But we might want to put our callas in first. It's up to you. It depends on your callas and it depends on your roses. Your roses are going to be slightly easier to go in. So you need to decide, are you having the calla as the long one or are you having the rose as the long one? And whichever is the longest is the one that we want to start with. So in this one, I think we're going to start with the calla. And what I've done is I've just gone in with a stub wire up into the calla and then used a slightly more flexible wire to go through the stem and round it. So this one inside is giving it support, and this one that's attached is really going to stop it falling off that support. So really I'm just going to feed that wire through, and then we can get our flower into that foam. And this bit up here, I can use my scissors just to snip, and then using the tip of the scissors, I can just turn that round. So if you want, you can, I quite like using these scissors, but actually these scissors are maybe a little bit better for doing this tip. So we'll switch to them. So we've put our rose in, our calla lily in, and what I would be more inclined to do is we'll just work our way through and place all our calla lilies first. Because this is quite a fleshy material, then actually it's best to place this first. So we're coming in and just again using the tip of the scissors just to catch that wire and feed back. So that is basically making these very strong. And when we make our bouquet, we're wanting this to have a nice curve on it, and we want to come out to a nice, like a single-ended spray actually. You want it to have a nice profile. You don't want it to be completely flat. It needs to have a little bit of movement in it. So just looking at our callas then, we can look and see how we want to do them. So once you come down to things being a little bit shorter, we can feed that wire up. So all I did was put a wire up it and then just coming through and then just binding over. The only thing is you don't want too much going on this bit of wire, because that actually can be a wee bit messy going through the foam. So you want that to be quite clean. If you were making a wired bouquet, this would all be wired and taped. but we don't really want to tape them because actually we want the flowers to be in the foam and we want them to be able to get a little bit of that water that we're actually using. So I'm just looking through my callas and seeing what I've got. So this one we can keep really quite short. So actually with this one, what I can do is I can use, maybe actually just go through it round, and then I've got my wire. So we're just actually, there's no weight on this stem. I can come in, so I'm coming into this higher level, and I've just used the one wire, so that's a little bit better. So far all these flowers have been wired. And really what you're wanting to do is, normally when you're making an arrangement, you're kind of working in advance. The other way round, you create a framework of greenery and then you feed your flowers through. With this, we really want to kind of go in reverse. So we're wanting to put in our heavy flowers or our flowers with big stems first. And then we can actually worry about the detail and the foliage later. So now this time I'm coming through the holder the opposite way, and that wire is going to end up here. That's fine. Again, we just cut it short and we can take it round there. So if you were making an arrangement, putting a wire through a calla is not the best idea. It's going to damage the stem, it's going to cause the stem to rot. It's not good for something that you're wanting to last. But we only want this to last for a day. This is for a wedding. So you need to not worry or stress about how long these are going to last. It just has to be good for that day. So I've created a bit of a line here, and we could add in more callas if we want. You have to just kind of always keep stepping back and having a wee look. So the other thing with the callas is there can be quite a long flower in themselves. So if I want this just to sit there, I actually don't necessarily need to have a long stem. Right, so what we've done is we've created a line with our callas and everything is really secure. So this is always the worry when we're using like a wet holder, is how we're going to do this. So our next flower then that we want to place is really going to be our roses. So these are the lovely little Miss Piggy roses, and I'm just using these because they tone so well. So we can look and see where we want to place these in our bouquet. So I like the idea of that one being down here. Now this has got a better stem than the callas, so the stem is a little bit stronger, and all we're going to need with a wire here is just to really add that security of tying it in. So I've got a space there, so we can come in there. With this hand I'm pulling the wire, and with this hand I'm going to place my flower. And again, just secure off your wire. So we're looking to have these staggered. So I don't want this flower in line with that flower or with this flower because it'll look unnatural. So we really want it to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want that to be spaced quite nicely. So then I can bring in this one down here. Great thing with the roses is you've actually got a little bit of a dimple on that stem. So I can put my loop of wire around that and know that I'm actually catching that dimple and that wire is not going to move on that stem. So again, just pulling with this hand, and then I place my rose with the other one. So you need to be an octopus if you're going to be a florist. And then we can bring in our next rose. So actually with this, we don't have to wire everything. We're really wanting to wire the things that are most at risk. So like with this rose here, I can actually feed that stem in. That doesn't need wired. That's just perfect where it's going. And actually, with this one here, I can do the same. So I've got quite a long stem there actually, and I can just work that right in. So the great thing about the wet foam is that we are giving ourselves a little bit more life into our flowers. So we don't need to worry so much about how they're going to perform on a day. Now we can really add whatever we want. I've got some Veronica here, I've got some astilbe. The thing about anything that you maybe want to put lower down, I would want to wire that so it doesn't in any way get pulled out or damaged. So the astilbe, this is actually where the wet foam is perfect. The astilbe doesn't like being out of water, so it's much more prone to suffer, and that's where the wet foam is just going to be perfect for this. So I'm just feeling that the wire can go in there and we can bring that up. So I really want that flower to definitely be into the foam. The only thing is when you're putting your flowers through with a wire, just be careful that you're not actually taking the wire through and skewering some of the flowers up the top. It doesn't matter if you go through the stem, but it will matter if you damage the flower itself, so just be mindful of that. So now this one is a little bit shorter, so I don't need to worry so much, so I can actually just use the stem as it is. We've got a little bit of foliage here. I've got some nice French ruskus. Again, this isn't heavy in itself, so I can just bring that in as it is. And what I'm wanting to do with this then is make sure that I've got a nice piece of stem that I can bring in that will be nice and secure. So we've got a nice long bit that way. I've taken that through, but I can also bring another one up here. So again, we're using the foliage to help enhance that line and help emphasize the shape of the bouquet. So these smaller pieces that I'm cutting are more like a unit, and they'll be quite happy in themselves. There's no weight in them. So as you can see, again, we're just helping to create that shape, that style, and a little bit more volume. So this is where it's quite important to just set your key flowers first. So I can look and see now for a little bit of eucalyptus. And you can move a flower around. So we're just popping that in, but I want it to sit in the right way. So I can feel in my fingers that things are going in, and I can feel that they're secure, and that's really a kind of key thing. So we've got our eucalyptus. And I don't really want to make a great big heavy bouquet for you. What we wanted to do today was really show you how to get the basic shape and the basic style. The content can be as full or as simple as you want. I would say if you go very heavy and very full, it tends to look very traditional, and that might be what you're after. It's up to you. Now, we can start adding our little bit of astilbe up here as well. And with this one, I can break this down into sets. So again, I can use the bigger piece up the top. And then I've got these little bits, and they're on like a little leg of the stem. I can use that in there and know that it's really secured in there by the little leg. but it's also getting water as well. So we've got a little bit of Veronica. Now this is where you need to make a judgment. Do you need to wire it or do you not? The more material that you've got in, the less easy it is to continue to wire things. So I'm not going to, because I don't think it's that heavy that it would need it. And another thing that I found with these holders is that your wires are going through the center, but you really haven't touched much of the foam on either side. So maybe if you're wanting to put a flower like this, say over here, I can go in really at the edge and go right down into that holder. But still the way the flower is sitting looks like it's coming from the center, or it's still coming out. So even here, I can go more to the edge. Says I. You don't really want to be stabbing around and moving things about. You want to just make a decision and place your flower. So we're going to continue that one there. So I've got some nice Hypericum, and what I liked about the Hypericum was it just gives us a little bit of a contrast. So a little bit of weight there, and you can keep the leaf on if you like. It's not a problem. So like with this, we can bring that down. And the good thing is that it has a little bit of visual weight that we can bring into the bouquet. So I think when you're doing something like this that's quite straightforward but quite simple, is just about having nice materials and nicely combined with little things that make a difference. So we've got a little bit of Bouquet here. And the great thing with that is that's giving us a little bit of detail, a little bit of interest. And you don't want to make a bouquet that's going to be full of gaps. But what you don't want is to just keep going and going and going and making it far too heavy, and it's got too much in it and too much, it's just too busy and things start to confuse it. I think you just want to keep it quite simple. What I'm tending to do when I'm making this is I'm looking for lines. So I've got a line of callas, I've got a secondary line of roses, we've got a little bit of weight in the middle from the roses. You could even have a rose here, would be quite nice. And with this Bouquet, we've got a line there. We've got a line of the Hypericum. So they all work together to make a pleasing whole, but when you look at it, it has rhythm because of the way that things have been placed. So really, I'm very pleased with that. That's really quite simple for a very simple bridal bouquet. What I would be inclined to do if I had another little bit of astilbe is maybe put that there. But when we look at it from the side, it's got a pleasing angle. It's not heavy. Again, I would possibly put a rose here. Maybe some little spray roses in there would be really beautiful. But I'm quite happy with that. What I would do then is I'm looking to how I finish that. And for the back of the bouquet, if I'm the bride, I'm looking down and I'm seeing something that's quite attractive. But just to finish off this side here, like what we did in our other video, I've just taken a large ivy leaf and we've used quite a thick wire just to finish that off. And I'm just going to put this in backwards. So I can come in quite angled, but then I can bring it back. So by going in at an angle, bringing the stem to me, it's sitting forward, but then my wire, I can bring that back. So I know that they're quite secure in the bouquet as well. And especially down this end, this gives a really nice finish. So when we did our other bouquet the other day, what I did was I put these leaves in first. You can put them in first, but I think initially I would tend to do it at the end because they're easy to place at the end. Just don't let go of the handle. And for placing your lines, you're going to find that it's much easier to see your holder and how you're placing things without those leaves there at the start. But from the front now, I don't see the back of those leaves, I don't see those wires, but they're there and they give a really nice finish. So we've got our completed bouquet. As you can see, it's got a really nice shape and a really nice light style. Now, it's up to you how you're going to create your bouquet. You might want to have a very central rose. You might want to add little spray roses. There's lots you can do. But today we've looked at how best to approach securing your flowers, placing your flowers so that they're staggered and it looks natural. We've got some recession. We've got some nice different textures and placement of our materials. And from behind, we've finished it off really quite prettily as well. All you need to do now is ribbon the handle or maybe do some decor on the handle, and you've got a very simple design for a very straightforward wedding, one that's not overly complicated. But the basics that we've looked at today is what you would take into making a bigger design or one with more content. So the underlying principles are the same. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Please comment if you've got any suggestions or anything you'd like us to do in the future. If you'd like to keep up to date with all our videos, then click here to subscribe, and thank you for watching.